Solving by factoring applications. In example 1, it says the area of two figures are equal. What is the area of the rectangle? When we find the area of a rectangle, we know that area is equal to length times width. The area of a triangle is equal to the length times the width, or the base times the height, divided by 2. So if we find the area of our rectangle, we can multiply its length by its width and set that equal to the length times the width of our triangle all over 2. So when we distribute x times 6x, we get 6x squared. X times 1, we get positive x. In order to get rid of a 2 in the denominator, the inverse of division is multiplication. So if we multiply both sides by 2, we're left with 12x squared plus 2x is equal to 10x times x plus 1. We want to distribute our 10x, so we get 10x squared plus 10x. Bring down your 12x squared plus 2x. Step number 1 is to get it in standard form. So we want to get it set equal to 0. So if we subtract our 10x squared, because it's the inverse of positive 10x, and if we subtract 10x, we are left with 2x squared minus 8x is equal to 0. We then can follow the same steps that we used yesterday. So step number 2 is to look for a GCF and factor. So I noticed that 2x squared and 8x have a 2 in common and also an x in common. So if you factor out that GCF, 2x squared divided by 2x is x, negative 8x divided by 2x is negative 4. I look to make sure that it's factored completely. Step number 3 is the zero product property. So I'm going to set 2x equal to 0. I'm going to set x minus 4 equal to 0. So you're setting both of your factors equal to 0 and solve. The inverse of multiplying by 2 is dividing, so I get x is equal to 0. The inverse of subtracting 4 is adding, so I get x is equal to positive 4. So my solutions are 0 and 4. So that's step 4, write your solutions. But then they asked us to find the area of the rectangle. So we need to plug x in. So we already multiplied x times 6x plus 1, and we got 6x squared plus x. So we're going to evaluate or plug 0 in for x. So 6 times 0 squared plus 0. And we're also going to plug 4 in. 6 times 4 squared plus 4. 0 squared is 0, times 6 is 0, plus 6 is 0. 4 times 4 is 16. Times 6 is 96. Plus 4 equals 100. 0 squared for the area of our rectangle does not make any sense, but 100 does make sense. So I'm just going to add 100 units squared, and I just found the area of my rectangle. So you need to make sure that your solution makes sense. Example number 2 says the length of a rectangle is 4 more than twice the width. So if I let the width of my rectangle be equal to x, I can then state that the length is 4 more than twice the width. They tell us that our area is 240 centimeters squared, and they want us to find the dimensions as well as find the perimeter. So in order to determine the dimensions, we can use the information given to solve for our x. So area of a rectangle is equal to length times width. We know our length is 2x plus 4. We know our width is x, and they told us that the area of our rectangle is 240. So if we distribute our x, we get 2x squared plus 4x is equal to 240. We then can subtract our 240 to get our quadratic equal to 0. Remember, we want to look for a GCF. So I see that all of these are divisible by 2. So factor out that 2, and you're left with x squared plus 2x minus 120. After you factor out your GCF, you want to actually factor your quadratic. Leave your GCF on the outside. You're asking yourself what times what multiplies to equal x squared. So I have x times x. What times what multiplies to equal 120. So I know I have a 10 and a 12. I need a negative, so one of my signs has to be negative. One has to be positive. When you check, you need to make sure that it equals positive 2x. So if you check your insides, negative 10x, your outsides, positive 12x, you know you factored correctly because the whole thing equals positive 2x. You need to set equal to 0 or use your zero product property. So 2 equals 0, x minus 10 equals 0, and x plus 12 equals 0. 2 equals 0 does not make any sense, so cross it out. To get x by itself, you do the opposite of negative 10. Get positive 10. To get x by itself, you subtract 12. So you get x is equal to negative 12. So then what we need to do is we need to plug x back in to find the dimensions of our rectangle. So if we look at the width and the length, and we plug first let's find the perimeter. So the perimeter we get from 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So we can write a polynomial by doing 2 times 2x plus 4 plus 2 times x. So we get 4x plus 8 plus your 2x. The polynomial for our perimeter is 6x plus 8. Now we can evaluate this when x equals 10 and x equals negative 12. So if we have 6 times 10 plus 8, 60 plus 8 is 68 centimeters. That makes sense. If we have 6 times negative 12 plus 8, 6 times negative 12 is negative 72, plus 8 gives us negative 64. This does not make sense. So the 0 we want to use is x equals 10. We found the perimeter is 68, but they also asked us to find the dimensions. So if you replace your x with 10 we know the width is equal to 10. And if we replace our x with 10, combined our like terms, 2 times 10 is 20, plus 4, we know that the length is 24 centimeters.